Welcome to datascience.show, the podcast where data science meets executive leadership. We talk with top AI and analytics thought leaders about turning data into real business impact. If you're a C-level leader or data expert shaping the future, you're in the right place.
I'm your host, Mirko. We explore how data science and AI drive real business impact, straight from the leaders making it happen. Today, an executive playbook for one of the riskiest parts of any deal, integrating data, models, and analytics teams after a merger or acquisition. If the technical integration is handled well, deals compound value. If it's handled poorly, years of performance and billions in projected synergies can evaporate. Over the next 22 minutes, I'll walk you through a practical, board-ready approach, what to prioritize in due diligence, how to inventory assets and liabilities, the key trade-offs, isolate, rehost, retire, or unify, and a 90-day integration checklist that preserves performance and compliance. This is not theoretical. It's about choices that executives can make now to protect deal value.
To ground this playbook, I'll summarize a representative case study I've seen across enterprise-scale transactions. A strategic buyer acquired a regional competitor with strong customer analytics but different data platforms, inconsistent lineage, and several models tied to legacy operational systems. The buyer expected 15% revenue uplift from cross-sell within 18 months. Pre-close, the buyer ran a focused diligence sprint that cataloged models, identified data privacy flags, and mapped dependencies to third-party vendors. Crucial decisions, like whether to keep the target's recommendation engine isolated for 90 days or to migrate it immediately, were taken with clear, measurable KPIs attached. That framing shaped post-close outcomes. By scoping what to isolate and what to unify, the integration preserved predictive performance and accelerated the expected revenue uplift.
Let's start with the due diligence checklist, the things every executive needs to see in the red, yellow, green columns before signing. First, a model inventory. For each model, capture purpose, inputs, training date, recent backtests, owner, and dependencies on external data or vendor libraries. Second, data lineage and access controls. Where did the training and feature data originate? Who can access it? And are there contractual or privacy restrictions? Third, performance drift risk. Are models regularly retrained? And is there evidence of degradation over the past 2 quarters? Fourth, operational dependencies. Batch jobs, feature stores, inference endpoints, monitoring dashboards. Finally, regulatory and contractual liabilities, PII, vendor clauses, cross-border data flows, and any documented data subject requests. Pre-close, a targeted 1 to 2 week sprint that produces these artifacts, is far more valuable than a longer exploratory due diligence that misses owner-level decisions.
Once you have an inventory, triage is the next executive choice. What to prioritize against deal KPIs. Use a simple impact versus risk matrix. High-impact, low-risk items are immediate wins. Examples include customer scoring models that map directly to cross-sell revenue and use non-sensitive features. These should be first in the migration queue. High-impact, high-risk models, think scoring that relies on personally identifiable attributes or vendor-hosted features, require a remediation plan or temporary isolation. Low-impact, low-risk models can be retired. Low-impact, high-risk models are candidates for rapid decommission. Tie each decision to a measurable KPI, retained predictive lift, time to first unified inference, or estimated revenue preserved. That alignment converts technical work into board-level value preservation and keeps prioritization defensible under pressure.
Now the operational trade-offs. Isolate, rehost, retire, or unify. Isolation means running the target's models behind a quarantine layer for a defined window, typically 30 to 90 days, to preserve behavior and prevent regression while you assess lineage and data quality. Rehosting migrates the same model to your runtime with minimal changes. This is fast but can hide data mismatch issues. Retire is the right call when a model's lift is negligible or replacement is cheaper. Unify, rebuild on a shared platform, is the most durable but expensive option and should be reserved for models that provide strategic differentiation. A concrete example. For the buyer's recommendation engine I mentioned earlier, the team quarantined the engine for 60 days while running shadow inference in the buyer's environment. That allowed direct performance comparison and gave the team time to map features and legal constraints before final migration.
Technical controls you should insist on immediately post-close.
a temporary data quarantine for sensitive datasets, version snapshots of training data and model artifacts, and a shadowing strategy for inference to measure drift between environments. Equally important are governance controls. An interim RACI that names a single accountable executive for each critical model, short-term SLAs for uptime and accuracy checks, and a mandatory retraining threshold. For example, retrain if accuracy drops more than X% or if feature distributions diverge by Y. These controls are not bureaucratic. They are protective measures that keep the deal's projected benefits from slipping through operational cracks.
Leadership and impact. At the C-level, the decisions are about scope, funding, and accountability. First, set a clear objective metric for value retention. For instance, percentage of pre-closed predictive lift retained, or incremental revenue captured within a 12-month horizon. Second, fund a dedicated integration squad with product, data engineering, and legal representation. A small, empowered team moves faster than committees. Third, design a short-term governance corridor, temporary isolation rules, visibility into changelogs, and a requirement that any model change passes a 2-week staging window with observable KPI stability. Finally, measure ROI not only in cost savings, but in retained revenue, compliance risk reduced, and time to unified insight. Those are the numbers executives need to sign off on integration choices.
Looking ahead, the merged model portfolio will accrue technical debt if you don't actively manage end-of-life and consolidation. Expect overlapping models that solve similar problems with different features. Plan for a rationalization roadmap. Also prepare for regulatory scrutiny on combined datasets, especially if the deal crosses jurisdictions. Culturally, integration succeeds when teams have a shared metric and a small set of integration rituals, weekly model performance reviews, joint postmortems for regressions, and paired knowledge transfers for critical features. Invest in capability building, training, playbooks, and shared tools so the merged organization can sustain value beyond the initial 90 days.
Key takeaways and 2 immediate actions for leaders. First, run a targeted model and data due diligence sprint pre-close. Deliverables should include a model inventory, lineage map, and a risk impact matrix tied to deal KPIs. Second, implement a 90-day integration checklist that starts with isolation for high-risk models, shadowing to measure retained lift, a named accountable owner for each critical model, and SLAs that protect performance and compliance while you migrate. If you adopt those steps, you'll convert a common source of value erosion into a predictable path to retention and acceleration. That's the difference between models and value.
If you found this episode valuable, subscribe and share it with your network. And let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm Mirko Peters. We'll be back with more conversations on how data science and AI create real business impact. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to datascience.show. If you found value in this episode, subscribe, share it with your network, and join us next time as we explore how data science drives smarter decisions and better business outcomes.